Okay, thank you so much, everyone, for getting into position. I appreciate it. One more time, my name is Avi Landa. I'm a mental health professional here in Baltimore, Maryland, here to present for you for the camp. Director of Education of Amudim as well, here to present for you for the camp some mental health tips, tactics, strategies, and practical takeaways. So I want to start. You all have an index card, you all have a pen, you're all in groups. I want you to start first with an individual exercise. It's not really so personal, but it's a little personal, so you can write it yourselves. I want you to write down 3 sentences. Sentence number 1, write down, I want to spend. You don't have to write your name on the top. This is for you to keep. I want to spend, and then I want you to write either more or less or the same amount of time on my phone or social media or gaming. I'm kind of wrapping those 3 up into one. If there's one in particular that you feel like is different than the others, then focus on that one. But I want you to just write down for yourself, I want to spend either more time or less time or the same amount of time. And you can do it 3 separate times if you want. On my phone, that can kind of encompass everything if the answer is the same for all 3. Gaming, and on social media. Those 3 things. Take 30 seconds to write that down. Sentence number 2. Write down, I am. Sentence number 2, I am. Happy or unhappy, choose one of those, with the content I view online. Overall. That means if I'm happy about 50% and unhappy about 50%, then I'm unhappy. I need a change. I am overall happy or overall unhappy with the content I view online. If there's a significant percentage of me viewing stuff that I don't want to be viewing, then I'm unhappy and I need something to change. I want something to change. So that's number 2. Number 3, 3 things. List 3 things that you would do in private, but not in public. And list 3 things that you would not even do in private. 3 things. So 6 things altogether. If you can only think of 1 and 1 or 2 and 2, it's fine. This is not a test. You're keeping this for yourself anyway. I'm not going to ask you to share your answers. It's for yourself. But 3 things that you would do in private that you wouldn't do in public. So obviously, something like getting dressed or going to the bathroom, taking a shower is something you would do in private, not in public. Those are pretty easy. But I just want you to see for yourself a contrast between things that you would do in private you wouldn't do in public and things you wouldn't even do in private. The sky's the limit in terms of what those things are. But pay attention when you're filling out this list. What comes to mind? Try to list at least 1. If you could list 3, even better. I want to make sure none of you wrote your name on top. None of you wrote your name on top. Okay? If everyone can please turn your index card upside down. 1 person in the group should collect all of them. And if you're willing to put it into the pile, I would collect them to look at them with no names on top. No names on top. If you're not willing, this is not mandatory, but if you're willing, I would like 1 person from the group to please collect the cards from the group face down, mix them up if you want, and then put them on the table right over here, face down. Again, if you especially do not want to hand it in, you don't have to hand it in. All right, let's take 1 minute, please. 1 minute to hand those in. No names on top. If you wrote your name on top, do it over again on a new card. Just put it on this table right here next to the camera. Thank you. Right over here. Thank you so much. Thank you. Perfect. Okay, let's bring those in. That's fine. They can put it in afterwards. Just put it in that pile right there. Thank you. So for today, if you were able to guess from this opening exercise, what we're doing here is we're going to talk about elements of technology and how it affects our lives and how we interact with it. But we're going to be super practical with it. This is not going to be a presentation where I simply tell you it's much less risky simply not to have a phone, not to be on social media, not to be involved in gaming. While that's true, because we're going to go through some of the risk factors, while that's true, that's not practical for most people. So we're going to be practical, we're going to be strategic, and I'm going to be open to questions during the presentation. Raise your hand, feel free, as well as afterwards. We'll leave some time for questions and answers, and you could always be in touch with me even after this is all over through the head staff. Okay, let's start with the word technology. Can somebody give me an example of a technological invention, of a technology invention that existed already 200 years ago? So that's definitely not going to be an iPhone, even though maybe for some of you that's before you were born. But let's say 200 years ago, yeah. The wheel is a technological invention. It allows you to move things over distances and up and down hills much more easily than if you don't have a wheel, yeah. The printing press, Gutenberg's printing press allowed us to spread messages and ideas at a much faster pace. Imagine what it took to rewrite and write, and if you made a mistake, and if there's a page that you made a mistake on, to have to go back and rewrite the whole page again. What an invention to allow the spreading of information and ideas. The light bulb, 200 years ago, yeah, okay, approximately, yeah. The plow, definitely since the times of Noach, right? That's what Rashi tells us. A clock, okay, measuring time, sure. Trains, yeah. Telescope. Steam engine. Telegram, okay. Yes. Typewriter. Boats. Things that can float and carry heavy weights and move. Okay. Planes, I'm not sure about 200 years ago. Definitely in maybe Leonardo's blueprints and prints with helicopters and stuff, but I'm not sure in practice. Okay, so we have all sorts of technology. Technology is not limited to electronics. It's not limited to microprocessors and therefore tablets and smartphones and the internet. Technology simply means innovation. Things that allow us to magnify our capabilities, and that's the key. Technology is neither good nor bad. If anyone tells you technology is evil, was the printing press evil? Some people might say yes. Okay, was the wheel? You're going to have a much harder argument for that, right? Technology is neither good nor evil inherently. It merely magnifies our capabilities. If we want to do good, it multiplies it tenfold, 100-fold, 1,000-fold. One of the examples that often guys give, which you guys forgot to give, is a gun. A gun is a technological advancement. Instead of using a bow and arrow to attack, I'm extremely limited in range and accuracy. I have a gun with gunpowder. It propels the bullet. It's much more accurate over much further distances, much more lethal. Obviously, if you have one army with guns and one army with bow and arrow, who's going to win? It's a technological advancement. It magnifies tremendously my capability. Without any technology, I'm limited to this range. Maybe if I have a stone as far as I could throw it. But once I have a slingshot and then a bow and arrow and then a gun, my range, my power is magnified. So technology just magnifies. If I'm doing good with it, it magnifies the good that I do. And it's the same is true with the electronic technology, with the information age, with internet, social media. How much Torah and goodness and chesed is spread through the internet, through what we call in modern day technology. But how much bad is there as well? It magnifies. If I want to speak Lashon Hara now, without technology, I could say it to whoever's within earshot. I could ruin someone's business to a few of my friends. But if I want to speak bad about someone's business with the internet, potentially I could speak to tens of thousands of people and destroy the person. It magnifies the bad, but it also magnifies the good. That, I think, is the foundation of this conversation, where we approach it very reasonably, very in a balanced fashion. We're not going to any extremes. We're not talking about here that everything just has to be eradicated and we have to go to any particular stream in either direction. But we have to recognize the power that's put into our hands and in our pockets if we're going to use it. And therefore, we do have to be extra careful with it. There are elements of addiction related to technology. And that's something that we want to make sure that we're aware of. A lot of times people ask, what's the practical eitzah? What's the practical strategy and tips to prevent myself from being addicted to phones, gaming, social media? Those three primary areas we'll talk about. And we're going to talk about what are some practical tips. But the first tip is just to think about it. Because most people just go through life like, this is what I was born into. Everyone around me has phones. My parents give me a phone at a relatively young age. All my friends have phones. And these are the apps that we have. And then a new app comes out and we download it and we all have that. We just go through it. We're not thinking. We're not stopping like 1 second. Is this good for me? To what extent is this enhancing my life or detracting from my quality of life? So the first step is just us here for the short amount of time that I'm talking to you, just stop and think for yourself. And that's why I had you fill it out a little bit for yourselves at the beginning. Just stop and think. Am I happy? Do I need to make improvements? Are there areas that I'm really unhappy? That I must make improvements? This can't continue? I know it's really not good for me. It even starts to get to addictive levels. An addiction is where I keep doing the activity even though it's bad for me. I see the bad results. A healthy human being does something, gets a good result, continues to do it. Gets a bad result, learns, and says, I'm not going to do that anymore. But there's this pathway in our brains called addiction where we start to get hooked on it, habituated to it, and even more addicted to it. And even though we see the bad results, we keep doing it. And we have to first step, before we talk about the technical ways, how do we prevent and maybe even how do we get out of addiction, we have to start talking about what is my state? Where am I at with all this stuff? Smartphones, gaming, social media. Usually once it becomes an addiction, it's actually being used as an escape from reality. It's not just, I enjoy it, but I'm trying to escape from something. And that's a little bit scary because we want to know what in our lives is so difficult for us that we're trying to hide from it. We're going to see a couple of videos soon. It's going to reference the neurotransmitter that is involved in rewarding us for pleasurable experiences. Anybody know what that chemical in the brain is called? Yeah. Dopamine. It's a hot topic these days. Dopamine is a chemical Hashem gave us in our brains that when we do something that's supposed to be healthy and good for us, there's a release of dopamine. It is a drug, a natural, appropriate, healthy, where it is made into our brain, put into our brain purposely, drug, but still a drug that can be manipulated. And that's what we're going to talk about today. It can be manipulated. So we have to think about the dopamine system in our brain. It's a little bit kind of looking at ourselves not like so human-like and more like we're some type of test animal or something like that. But we do have to think that way a little bit. Because if there are ways in which, unfortunately, psychologists can hack the dopamine system in our brain to make us do things that are really not good for us, we need to be informed. That's step number one before we get to all the other practical tips. Wow, so that's what they're doing. That might not immediately lead to you stopping because you're already hooked. But it's the first step to understand what's going on It's not just a bunch of kids goofing around making Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or YouTube Shorts. It's professionals who are being paid millions of dollars a year salary to tweak and make it a little bit more able to hook, a little bit more addictive, because the more eyeballs they have, the more money they make. And it's a business-driven model. They're not necessarily, I'm not claiming they're necessarily trying to do bad. They're not trying to hurt you, but they're trying to make as much money as possible. Everything else is blinded out. How do I make as much money as possible? And the answer to that question is, how do I gain your attention as much as possible and for as long as possible? And the answer to that question is, how do I hack the dopamine system in your brain? That is what is going on over here. And there's no secret about it. There are articles and articles written about it. I'll show you a couple of clips of people who have really exposed some of this stuff. And they don't deny it. If you read their own publishings, you'll see the people. And by the way, a lot of these people who own tech companies and own these social media companies, they're very strict, more strict than the average person with their own kids and grandkids when it comes to these devices and getting onto these apps. Fascinating thing, because they understand it so deeply. There's an element of desensitization as well. Dr. Pelcovitz, he's a famous Fromm psychologist. He often talks about how in World War II, they discovered that many, many soldiers on the American side died, on the Allied side, died not because they didn't spot the Nazi soldier first before the Nazis spotted them. They did, and they had the Nazi in their crosshairs, but they hesitated a few seconds to pull that trigger and end another human being's life. Those few seconds meant the Nazis spotted them and shot them. So what they were trying to figure out is, how do we eliminate this couple second delay, this sensitivity that a lot of the Allied soldiers had that was killing them? It was a huge source of death for the Allied soldiers. So they were studying this. And in the 1950s, another war broke out with America. Who knows which war in the 1950s? Very good. The Korean War. That war broke out, and they started to do studies to see where are we holding, because we're still developing. How do we take care of this problem? And they saw the problem went way down. There was almost no more problem anymore. What changed from the 1940s to the 1950s in American society, in the average home of America, that would have solved this problem, so to speak? Any ideas? What was a new innovation in the average American home between the 1940s and the 1950s? Yeah. Okay, there you go. Correct. It was still black and white, mostly. Okay, so the television was introduced into the home. People would sit and watch what? If you ever see any clips of it, very rudimentary, somebody would like bang on the wall in the backdrop as the sound effect for the gun shooting. And then the guy would have some delayed reaction as if he was hit. Compare that to what's going on now in movies and TV and clips and shows in terms of how realistic they make it. But what was happening was, even at that very rudimentary level, that very basic level, Americans in general were becoming desensitized. That means when I watch something that should make me be in shock, that could be something of violence, that could be something inappropriate, something that we would call pornographic. That for any normal human being, the first time they see such things, and I've spoken to so many guys about this, maybe close to 1,000 at this point, every single one of them tells me, whether it was 4th or 5th grade, 7th or 8th grade, or 9th or 10th grade, or the first time they saw something like that, it was either disgusting or shocking in a bad way. It wasn't pleasurable to look at. And then curiosity brings them back, not pleasure. And then they become desensitized to that initial healthy, normal, natural, human disgust, shock, sensitivity. They become desensitized through the curiosity, bringing them back. And then ultimately the pleasure cycle kicks in, the dopamine kicks in, and you could even become addicted. Pretty scary stuff to get addicted to. So they were desensitized, in this case, to the violence, and they embarked on the new war in the 50s. It was much less of a problem. You literally saw it in action en masse, the desensitization process. So we have to be careful. What are we watching? In the same way that our veins, our lungs, our inlets for substances to get to our bloodstream and to our brain, our eyes, our inlets for visuals, our ears are inlets for audio to get into our brain, and it has an effect. Not because I introduced some foreign chemical that manipulates my brain chemicals, but because I introduced the imagery and the audio that actually also, like a substance, manipulates my brain chemicals. It's an amazing thing to think about. It's good to be careful in general with what we look at, what we listen to. How about our social interactions? It has a major impact on our social interactions. We want to be able to have good relationships with people. Well, certainly some of the stuff we were talking about before, the inappropriate stuff, totally warps and corrupts our ability to have normal social interactions, especially later in life when you're thinking about marriage with the opposite gender, especially there. But even just normal, healthy, friendly relationships, like what are guys getting together to discuss? Is it a group that all they discuss is that topic? Every gesture they make is imitating something in that genre. Every joke they make to get a laugh has to do with that. Every time they hear words that are normal words in the English language, but there's so many nicknames for so many things that basically you could hear any shear in Torah from a Rebbe, and he's going to say a number or he's going to say a phrase, and you'd be like, oh, yeah, I know what that's referring to. No, it's not. It's just that your brain has been filled with every single type of little nickname and meme and so everything becomes corrupted. Like you can't say a sentence without, oh, there's something in there that refers to that. You gotta think to yourself, where am I holding? And who are the friends that I'm hanging out with? And what kind of conversations do I get excitement from? Then, of course, there's using technology to communicate. So I want to communicate with let's just set this up here. Any way to shut those lights off also? Or all the lights off? And can you try to make this a little clearer? Just try to move it a little bit. All right, it'll have to do if you can't. There's like a little black thing on top. Yeah, does that help? No, okay. Okay, it's good enough if we can't get it better. But when we're communicating and we're using technology, how are we communicating with people? Are we calling them on the phone, which is obviously use of technology, or are we texting? Are we sending private messages and direct messages? And how do those messages work? Are they effective? Are there misunderstandings? Let's take a look at this. Oh, it's just going slow.
Trying to reach out to you all day. Are we on for tonight?
Oh, shoot. Keegan's been texting me. Sorry, dude. Missed your texts. I assumed we'd meet at the bar. Whatever. I don't care.
Sorry, dude, missed your texts. I assumed we'd meet at the bar. Whatever, I don't care. Whatever, I don't care. Do you even want to hang out?
Do you even want to hang out? Oh, let's consider. Like I said, whatever.
Like I said, whatever? You
are priceless. Aww. You're the one who's priceless. Okay. You want to go right now? Huh. Guess I can do that. Okay. Okay, let's go. He said, okay. Okay, let's go. All right, you know what? You know what? You want to really do this now? Keegan nuts. You're not putting me out. Yeah, let's do it. First round's mine. Oh no! Oh no, there ain't gonna be no round. It's gonna be a rest of the night. No! Buddy! Like I said, first round's mine. A beer and a gimlet. My partner, right? What's that? I got you a baseball bat with nails in it. For my post-apocalyptic Jackie Robinson costume, how did you know? Trying to be.
All right. So okay. So if we can get the backlights on one more time. A cute little video clip where we have obvious, exaggerated miscommunications. This actually happens to be the censored version of that clip. I don't necessarily recommend you look that up, but it's a great portrayal of how easily text message communications can go awry. Not only do I work with teenage boys, I work with couples as well. So I'm working with guys in shidduchim in the dating process. I'm working with guys in their beginning of their engagement, in the beginning of their marriage, shana rishon. There are so many unnecessary miscommunications and misunderstandings that come from texts. Sometimes, yeah, it's exaggerated, it's obvious like this, and then later that day, you clear it all up. Sometimes it's subtle. Sometimes, like, it's not enough like that you're going to bring it up with the other person, but you kind of feel like a little bit like, ooh, what was that? And then it kind of continues for a few weeks, and it really damages relationships. So I'm not saying you should never text, but you should consider speaking, at least voice noting, and certainly speaking on the phone, and certainly speaking in person where you can read facial expressions and body motion is the healthiest, most clear way to communicate. Don't ever forget that. If you have an important conversation you need to have someone, it's worth waiting to speak to them in person or at least on the phone and not utilizing technology and texting. It's obviously very old-fashioned to call someone. And yes, you could always text them and say, hey, we need to talk, can I call? That's fine. Used to not be like that. If you can imagine a world in which we actually would just call the other person and somebody would just be walking around like, ring, ring, oh, my phone's ringing. As opposed to, ding, oh, this person wants to call me. Let me answer yes or no, and then my phone can ring. It actually used to be even without that extra step. But okay, fine, do it that way. But set up that you can meet in person even better. Of course, if you have a shopping list, if you have a quick, what's your ETA? Of course you could do that through text. But consider when there's something of substance, the level of communication that can be had much more effectively through speaking and not through the technology, through texting. Okay. There are many other issues when it comes to technology just to be aware of. Unfortunately, there are times that I've been involved with directly as well, where especially with the proliferation of AI now, you can just make up pictures. You can take anyone's face, put it on top of anything else, put it in any context, and it can be funny sometimes and innocent fun sometimes, but it can be horrifying other times. Even if people know, think about yourself. If a picture went around with your face on top of some weird situation, top of a gorilla's body, okay, let's keep it relatively innocent, because obviously this can get way more extreme than that. Imagine that picture going around, and the title of the picture is like, just kidding. The title of the picture is, look what AI can do, right? So everyone knows the second they look at it, it's not real. Let's assume like best case scenario with these difficult situations. Even still, think about if it was you. Would you be like happy that that was going around? Would you be like sharing it with everyone yourself? No. It's not enjoyable. It's not nice. So now instead of somebody like making fun of you verbally or in front of a class of 20, it's going around to hundreds, if not thousands of people. It's a crazy thing to think about. Embarrassing someone like that. And obviously, I painted the picture as good as possible. Imagine if there is no title like that. Imagine if the picture is way worse than that. The sky's the limit in terms of the bad that technology can be used for. But remember, not that technology is bad, just that it can magnify your capabilities when it comes to these things. We have to be aware of that. Technology also keeps us connected, and there's constant fear of missing out. You say FOMO, where what else is going on? I have so many guys that I work with that are up till late at night. I'm like, what are you doing? They're not even watching videos. They're just monitoring the different chats that there are to see, wait, did someone just post something new? If I go to sleep at 1:30 a.m., I'm going to miss a post someone might post at 1:45. And it could have been funny. And you know how the funny posts are. It's all about timing. If the guy posts something at that moment and 10 other guys are commenting, they're having a great time on the text chat, and then I wake up at 7 or 8 or 12 or 2, and I missed it, I can't now comment hours later another funny line. I missed participating. I don't want to miss out. But really, do you not? Do you want your whole day to revolve around making sure that you're included in every one of these nonsense chats? They're not important. They're just some fun. So you'll have some fun the next day. You'll figure that out. Got to keep these things in mind. What exactly is going on? Don't let it just be something you do thoughtlessly. Think about it. Then obviously there's identity safety. What's going on? Who are you talking to? What kind of people are you connecting with? There's a lot of awareness about this nowadays. Hopefully you guys are pretty well aware and prepared for scams. But you got to really know and make sure and double check, who am I talking to? There's a clip going around right now of a soldier, I don't know if he's a veteran or he's active duty, whose wife, the soldier got a call from a man. The call came in, caller ID, his wife's number, because they can spoof people's numbers now. That means that they can fake as if they're calling from another number, just like they can fake like they're coming from Dell at DellSupportUSA.com or Amazon Support USA. They can fake any email address pretty easily. And they can say, click here, your password has expired. In fact, I'm on a number of different organizational emails. One of them got me recently. Actually, it was the OU one. Because the OU makes you change your password more than any other organization that I'm a part of. I guess good for them. But it was no surprise to me when I got an email from OU's security company with their name. And it said, click here, your password has expired. Click here to change your password. And I usually don't fall for these things. I was in a rush, whatever I was in the middle of. I'm like, okay, I got to do this. So I clicked it. And it was the security company training us that when you click it, it says, you've just been spoofed. Be more careful next time. It was actually the security company, but they were pretending to be somebody spoofing the security company, getting you to click here. And the only way you could have tell is if on your phone you click on the address where it's coming from, which says from the security company, but then when you click on it, you see a different email address. And even that they're getting better at. It's complicated. You guys got to really, really be careful. So anyway, this soldier, he gets a call from his wife's number, but it's a man that says, I have your wife. She's been taken hostage. You must immediately Zelle me this amount of money. Here's my Zelle ID. In the next 5-10 minutes, and if you don't, she's dead. It's frightening. It's unbelievable. It used to be my grandmother, a Holocaust survivor. She was tricked by this one time. She lost thousands of dollars. She was called by a person who said, your grandson has been taken. And she was already like 90. She died at 99. She was like 95. She's a Holocaust survivor, an amazing woman. And she innocently said, Joshy? And the guy's like, yes, Joshy. I have Joshy. And she's like, okay, what do I have to do? Now, this is going back 15, 20 years where she had to go to one of those bank money transfer services, and she had to transfer the money, and she did. She never heard from them again. Then she decided to call her son, and she realized the whole thing was a trick. Anyway, in this case, the guy said, so this soldier happened to have an FBI friend. So he was texting him while he's on the phone with this guy. What do I do? So the FBI guy told him, listen, keep him on the phone. We have to make sure. Keep him on the phone. In the meantime, I'm going to try to call your wife, and I'll text you if I get through. And he couldn't get through. She happened to be at like a hospital doctor's appointment for one of their kids. He couldn't get through. So he was getting very nervous. He said, keep him on the phone. Just keep him on the phone. So the guy's on the phone with the terrorist saying, what is Zelle? I think I have Venmo, but not Zelle. Just pretending like he's ignorant, just trying to stall for time. Anyway, the FBI guy drives to where the appointment is supposed to be. And he finds his wife. And she's like, I'm totally fine. So he quickly texts him, just hang up with the guy. So that story ended well. But we have to be so careful. Who are we talking to? Oh, I met a new friend. Somebody's connecting with me through Instagram. Wow, it's so nice. Who is this person? Even if they say a name that you recognize, double check it. Send them a text or call them better. Hear their voice. When you see them in person, confirm. And certainly if it's just a random person like from across the country, like, hey, I want to be your friend. Double, triple check. Do not assume people are who they say they are. Be super careful with what you put up online. Always assume it's all going to be out there. No, it's through Snapchat, so it disappears. Are you kidding me? Take a screenshot. You guys all know that. Oh, screenshot is disabled by the admin of this app. Wow, that's hard. Here's another device. Take a picture of the screen. Now I have that picture forever. How are you going to stop that? You can't. You have to be careful. What pictures, clips, texts am I putting out there? People have lost jobs all the time because their future employer looked at their previous posts and realized they're not so happy with what was posted. So we have to be thinking about all these elements of safety to be extra, extra cautious when it comes to these things. Okay. Let me ask you guys a question. You're going to discuss it in your group forms, okay? Here's a question. Let's say you receive a post, a text, something on one of the social media platforms, and the post says that so-and-so did something, one of your friends, and there's some sort of AI-generated image that seems to support it, but you kind of know it's fake, and you know that this guy doesn't like the other guy. What do you do? Right. 3 basic choices are ignore, don't share, or actually get up and do something about it. But if you choose that choice, you got to come up with, like, what would you do exactly? What would your next step be? Give you guys 1 minute to discuss amongst yourselves. Let me hear what your ideas are. Talk with your group. I want to hear a good idea. What would be a creative, good idea of what you would do next in that scenario?
Las Vegas, 1980.
All right, 10 seconds. Okay, quiet everybody, quiet, quiet. Let's hear what you guys came up with. Let's start over here. What'd you guys come up with? I would approach the guy who posted it and ask him, why are you doing this? Just ignore it. Don't do anything.
I would like to say, haha, it's so funny, but then I would say, but don't post this to other people because they might not realize.
Haha, so funny, but dude, don't post this for anyone else. People might
think it's like real.
think it's real or whatever. Yeah, what do we got from your group over here? What do we got? Any ideas? You know who's posting it. Like baseball bat with nails style? Okay. But anyway, try to pressure the guy to stop. Find out who it is and pressure him to stop. What do we got over there in the back? Yeah, you. Call them out. You're saying even publicly. Interesting. That's a new idea. So on the chat, or maybe on your platform with even more, everyone should know this guy's posting something. It's not real and it's not cool and he should stop. Now, there's a little bit of a downside to that. If you do it only on whatever chat it was posted on, then okay. But once you do it, let's say on a larger platform, you have 1,000 contacts there. All of a sudden, maybe the chat only had 15 people on it. You just spread to 985 more people that there's something going on about this guy, and they're all going to try to find it. They're going to be curious, right? It's actually a dilemma that schools and camps have all the time. What happens if somebody does something and people are talking about it? Should we blast out? I know people are talking about this thing that happened. We're not going to get into details. It's not true. We've taken care of it. Everyone's 70% of the parents didn't even know about it. They're like, hey, what happened? Let me see what happened. So you actually spread it more. I'm not saying it's the wrong thing to do. Sometimes you have to do that, but it's a tricky dilemma. Back, yeah. Any ideas? Yeah. Back over here, any ideas? Your group? What? Pay him a visit. Speak to him directly. Yeah. What? Tell the victim about it and let him handle it. Okay. Make sure the victim knows that's certainly a good step. Yeah. Can't hear. Can you have an effect on this person? If he's just going to ignore you anyway, what's the point? Okay. And maybe in that case, he might ignore you, but will he ignore you and 10 of your friends? So maybe bring your group together. It's not always so easy to do, but it's much harder to ignore 10 guys than one guy. Yeah. Okay. There are people online on the internet who that's actually what they do to scammers. They purposely spend a lot of time with these scammers, often based in villages in India, and waste all their time and pretend to be old ladies and almost send them the $52,000 that they have in their savings account 1,000 times until they just give up and they wasted all their time all day long. So yeah, you can do that if you have the time to spare to do that. Oh, so you can make it automated? Okay. Okay. Okay, there you go. Fine. So you're using technology against the technology for good, I hear. Okay. Just good to be thinking about. What happens when these types of things come up? For the rest of the presentation today, I want to focus on the addictive nature of gaming, social media, how the smartphones draw us in. We're going to start actually, interestingly, with gambling. And there are tremendous connections between the addictive nature of gambling and how technology breaks into that dopamine cycle that we discussed. The casinos are multi-billion, $100 billion, maybe $1 trillion businesses. They also hire the best and the brightest to figure out how to keep people playing and losing. It's no wonder that when social media and gaming companies and smartphone app developers want to draw your attention and keep you there, they're using the same techniques. You guys think, some of you probably think, DraftKings and FanDuel, what's the big deal? You're betting on these parlays. Who knows what a parlay is? Look at that. That gets bigger and bigger every year. What is it? A million different things. But if you hit on all of them, like here we are in Baltimore, if not only do the Ravens win, but they win by exactly 5, and Derrick Henry doesn't get 1 touchdown, he gets 2, but not 3, only 2, then I get like 20 times my bet. But it's like you're creating a lottery ticket where it's like 1 in 200 million that you're going to win, but you win $1 billion or $500 million from a $5 ticket. Here too, you could win dramatically. The odds of you winning are so low because you're adding all these things to it. But that's what the algorithms are doing in these sports betting apps. And it becomes highly addictive with all the techniques that we're going to see in this video. Let's take a look.
6.
Oh, could we turn the... Yep, thank you.
A man stares blankly into a flashing screen. He hasn't moved for hours. He barely blinks. His wife is gone. His money nearly lost. Yet his finger keeps pressing the button again and again. Hypnotized, trapped. Because this machine was never designed to let him go. It was designed to keep him playing. Every spin, every sound, every loss, carefully engineered. What this man didn't know was that an entire industry had spent decades crafting this exact moment. Using lights, sounds, psychology, and addiction, they perfected a billion-dollar trap hidden behind the spinning reels of a slot machine. And millions, just like him, would fall into it. San Francisco, 1895. Inside a small workshop, the air smells of oil and iron. A German mechanic named Charles Fay is finishing a project that seems harmless. 3 spinning reels, a payout tray, a single lever mounted on the side. He calls it the Liberty Bell. Drop in a nickel, pull the lever, hope for 3 bells. If they line up, it spits out 50 cents. It's simple, mechanical, pure chance. No screens, no music, no dopamine. And yet, it spreads like wildfire. Saloons across California install them near bar counters. People play while waiting for drinks, laughing as coins rattle into the tray. It feels innocent. It is, for a while. But as the decades pass, the machines begin to change. By the 1960s, electricity replaces springs and gears. Lights flash, sound effects trigger on every spin. Payouts become bigger, flashier, louder. And in the shadows, something begins to shift. The machine isn't just reacting anymore, it's manipulating. In 1976, a new version is born inside a small company in Las Vegas. It doesn't use spinning gears. It doesn't even need reels. It runs on code. The era of the random number generator begins. Outcomes are now decided before the reels even move. You pull the lever, you think the spin matters, but the result already chosen. And that was the breakthrough, because now casinos could control everything. The payout rate, the illusion of luck, the rhythm of the game. By the 1990s, the transformation is complete. Slot machines aren't simple anymore. They're sophisticated psychological tools, each one a glowing box built with science, not chance. Casinos notice something else, too. Players are staying longer, spending more, coming back more often. So, they start redesigning the entire floor. Table games are pushed aside. Roulette and blackjack shrink to the edges. The heart of the casino becomes a sea of machines, row after row glowing silently in the dark. No dealers, no rules, no judgment. Just you, a button, and the hope that maybe this next spin will change everything. But it never does. And that's the point. Today, slot machines generate up to 85% of casino profits. And they're not popular because they pay out. They're popular because they're designed to keep you playing. In the 1950s, inside a Harvard lab, a rat is placed in a cage. There's no maze, no puzzle, just one button and one rule. Press the button and maybe you'll get a pellet of food. But here's the trick. The reward isn't consistent. Sometimes it takes one press, sometimes 20, sometimes none at all. And what scientists found changed everything. The more unpredictable the reward, the more obsessed the rat became. It stopped eating, it stopped sleeping. It just pressed the button again and again until it collapsed. They called it variable ratio reinforcement. Today, casinos call it standard practice. Slot machines are built on this exact principle. Unpredictable rewards that arrive just often enough to keep you hooked. You spin, you lose. You spin again, nothing. Then, a small win, just enough to remind you it's possible. This isn't luck, it's behavioral conditioning, and it works. Neuroscientists studying the brains of frequent slot players found something disturbing. The dopamine activity, the rush of pleasure and anticipation, mirrors that of cocaine use. But unlike most drugs, slot machines are silent, clean, socially acceptable, and worse, they're designed to make you feel like you're in control. But you're not. The reels don't matter. The timing doesn't matter. The outcome is decided the moment you press the button. Yet the illusion is so strong that players believe they're developing strategies, that they're due for a win, that the machine is listening. It's not, but your brain doesn't care. Because once the dopamine loop is triggered, logic isn't part of the equation. And over time, players stop gambling to win. They gamble to feel normal. Addiction researchers call this extinction burst, the point where you're not playing for excitement anymore, you're playing to avoid the crash when you stop. It's not about money. It's not even about fun. It's maintenance, and the machine always delivers, just enough to keep you chasing. It looks like a game. It sounds like a win, but it's neither. Because what most players don't realize is that modern slot machines aren't built to be exciting. They're built to deceive. Let's start with one of the simplest tricks. You bet $1, you win 40 cents. You lost money, but the machine celebrates. Flashing lights, rising tones, the word win splashed across the screen. This is called a loss disguised as a win. But it's not an accident. It's coded into the system because your brain doesn't track dollars. It tracks feedback. If the machine rewards you, even after a loss, you keep playing. But it gets worse. Near misses are programmed to appear frequently. 2 jackpot symbols. Then a third one lands just above the line. Your pulse spikes. You were so close, but in reality, you weren't. The outcome was never close. It was never even possible. The machine simply showed you a losing result dressed as a near win. Why? Because a near miss triggers the same neural response as an actual win. Your brain rewards you, even when the machine doesn't. And then there's multi-line betting. Modern machines let you bet across dozens of lines at once. You can win on one line while losing on 29 others. The machine makes noise, it flashes, you feel good, but you've just lost more than you won.
Okay, we don't have to watch this whole thing. The point is that all of these are actually involved in even DraftKings and FanDuel, where you guys might be more familiar than necessarily a slot machine. Certainly, when it comes to, unfortunately, right, gambling used to be relegated to actually going to places like Vegas and Atlantic City. Now it's on the phone. There's a whole discussion and a whole expose on the evolution of how gambling became legal almost in every single state. And there's online gambling. So everything you just saw about slot machines literally applies to the actual online gambling apps, which, if I had to guess, probably a couple people in this room have already dabbled in, unfortunately. And they're highly addictive. They're designed to hack the dopamine system, to create a situation that you can't get out of, to make you lose tons of money. And it's the same thing when it comes to social media. They're designed to give you a little, oh, there's something there. There's something that was rewarding. I almost, like they were saying, got something rewarding. But really in the slot machine, it's all pre-programmed. So on DraftKings, you might hit 7 out of 8 of the items on your parlay. You lose. But I was so close. Yeah, but hitting 7 out of 7 versus 8 out of 8 is a world of a difference statistically. Certainly, let's say 2 out of 2 versus 4 out of 4. World of a difference mathematically. But you feel so close, you want to do it again and again. And it traps you. We have to be really careful when it comes to these things. And we're going to end off with a couple of basic strategies. Simple strategies, no major chidushim, no major novelties, but let's take a look at just a couple. There's a neuroscientist named Huberman who has a lot of discussions on how technology interacts with our brains. Let's just see a couple clips here.